this lecture now we will see CSS topics. And well, we'll basically go over the syntax and what are the selectors in CSS, some basic text styles, and also some more details about the margin, border, and the padding in CSS. Well, first let's start with the CSS syntax. Well, this is just a very beginning part. Well, CSS is basically a set of rules, and each rule we have one selector which shows that which area will be affected, and then in each rule we have a set of declarations, and each declaration contains a property and a value pair. Property is which aspect of the component, which aspect of the component that we defined will be affected, and the other one is how it will be affected. Now, but this was a very brief overview. Now, before going into more details, now let's step back and explain what is a CSS and so on. First, well, you might consider HTML as the structure of a building. Like when you see a building, you say, okay, it's a 3-bedroom apartment, so it has 2 bathrooms and 3 bedrooms and a balcony and so on. So when we are describing this, we are describing the structure of that building, but we do not define how those bedrooms are, what is their color, and so on. So this is the HTML. The HTML is the structure of the building, but CSS is how that building looks like. What's the color of that of the walls, and how those bedrooms are, how large are they, and how they are organized. This is the CSS of your building. So going over this analogy, what is CSS? Well, it is used to control the presentation, like how look like your web page is, and also it's control the layout of your web page, which means how would you position your elements of your web page. And CSS basically, it stands for cascading style sheets. So one of the good features of the CSS is that it separates the web page content, how it separates its visual design from its design. So again, I will give you the same analogy, like when we are building a structure, a building, we need 2 people. One is the engineer, construction engineer, and we also need an architect. So construction engineer does not focus on how it will look like, how fancy that building is. They will mostly focus on, okay, is the its main structure, so that the building will not collapse, it will work, it will be safe from the earthquakes and so on and so. But the architect, they will look at how fancy that building is. Similarly, now by using CSS, we are separating these 2 concerns: the content of the web page and its visual appearance. And also CSS is a flexible cross-platform platform language, which means that you can use it in multiple different for different devices, for different operating systems, and so on. So just to remind you, CSS stands for cascading style sheets. So these style sheets consist of rules that describe how that styling will be applied. So in each rule, so CSS has multiple rules, and in each rule we have a selector which basically defines where we would like to change. Like I would like to change the walls of this building. I would like to change the balcony. I would like to paint the kitchen. So, or from a web programming perspective, I would like to change the body part of it. I would like to change the paragraphs. I would like to change the headings and so on and so we identify which part we will apply the styling. And then we have the declarations. So in a rule we might have multiple declarations, which means that what we would like to do, I would like to paint the wall to blue, I would like to enlarge the balcony, I would like to use this kind of material in the balcony and so on. So each of these are stylistic are what we want to do in terms of style. So each declaration, in a declaration, well, we each declaration consists of property and value pairs. So property can be color, font size, the margins, and everything about the stylistic part of that component, and then what it should be. So for a color, I would like to make it blue, and I would like to make the font sizes to 13 pixels. And each declaration is separated by semicolons, and properties and values are separated by columns. And like in Java, if you would like to put a comment to your CSS file, you can use the slash asterisk in between. You can put your comment, and then again asterisk, and then slash again, so that in between you can write your comments in a CSS file. And well, there are multiple ways to incorporate CSS code into your HTML document. Well, basically it's inline, embedded, or external. So what are those? Let's see. The first one is inline, in which you specify a rule for a very specific HTML tag. Like as in this example, for instance, you see that we have a paragraph. Actually, we just say that this is a paragraph, but in between we say that okay, it's style. By using this attribute, we say okay, style, and then between this style, now we write our declarations. We don't need uh, we don't need a selector in this case. The reason is that because we are already selected, it's obvious which tag we would like to apply. It is this very specific tag, so there is no selected in this case, but we only have these declarations. So I would like to make its color sienna, and I would like to make its margin left 20 pixels. Let's say that we have this very basic HTML file in which we have this paragraph, and say that just this is a paragraph. When we run this code, we'll get this kind of a very standard one. Now we would like to change that. So how can we do it? Well, we need to go to this part, and then I will just copy paste it. I will say okay, I would like to make this paragraph and change this color to sienna, and change this font size to 100 pixels. So when we run this code again, now we will get this very large part. Probably 100 is quite large, so let's make it 20, for instance. And now, well, you might say, okay, I would like to have another paragraph with another style. So this is the second paragraph, okay. But now I would like to change its color to blue, and I would like to change its font to 50. So when we do it, now again, we will get this text. As you can see that for each specific tag, I can apply a different style by using this inline CSS inline CSS rules. In an embedded one, what we do is in the head part of our document, our HTML file, we use the style tag, and in between we define our CSS rules with the selectors, which part we would like to apply, and our declarations for each part. So what it means is, in that document, for all p tags, for all paragraphs, apply this rule, and for each for everything in body tags, apply this rule. So when we say the selector, this one, it might apply multiple tags. multiple tags in that HTML file. So what we need is, well, we will have this head tag for it, and within that head tag I will use this style tag, and within that style tag I will now say, okay, for all paragraphs, okay, this is my declaration, I will use this part. Okay, so I will say that, okay, color is sienna, font size is 20. All right, and of course, well, maybe you can say some more parts for it, like maybe we have some headings, and I would like to, for that one, for the headings, I would like to say, okay, the color should be red and the font size should be 50. Now what I will do is I will delete this part. Okay, I don't need this part now, but of course I would like to put one heading. So h1 and our header. Okay, so when we run this code now, let's see what will happen. All right, so let's now investigate it. I said that the ones with the h1 tag, which is here, should be red, and its font size should be 50, which is, as you can see, that is much larger than the other ones. And this p, I said that, okay, all the p tags should be in sienna color with 20 pixels. So I have two paragraphs here, and both are affected and both have the same style. So in an external one, well, what we can do is we can create a separate CSS file, and in that one we can put all our rules, and then in our HTML file, in our heading part, we will just use this link tag to say that, okay, we will use this CSS file for this for this document. So let's go now slowly for each part. What is a CSS file? Well, it's just a text file in which we put all our CSS rules. So we have the selectors and we have the declarations for each. So since W3 Schools does not allow me to do that, I will show it from here. So I created this CSS file. I have this color here, I have this body part here, and so on. So I have defined all these rules, and then the next part is, now I'll go back to our slides again, for this link part, in which we say that this rel stands for the relation. So what is the relation of this document with that HTML file? We are saying that, okay, this is just a style sheet, and this is href. We should put the path to that file. So now I'm going back to my code again, and here I have this example file, in which now what I will do is I will make it simplify that part. So I will remove these cases, in which now I have this between the head command, I have this link tags, and I have its style sheet, and this is the document URL to the document. And now what I'll do is I will save this file, and then now we have to go to the folder, and we just need to open that one. So that document, so I will open my folder part, and then when I click this, basically it will open this document. As you can see now, it says there's a paragraph blue, and it's very in the middle. Let's see what we said in our CSS file. So we said that, okay, the paragraph should be blue, and the margin left, it's the margin from the left side, it should be 20 pixels, and the body, we say that, okay, the text align should be in the center. So that's why when we go to here, we see that in the center its color is blue, and so on. So in short, going back to our slides again, now we can also create CSS files, and then we can link our HTML file with that one, so that the rules will be imported from that file. Well, which one is preferred? Well, of course it depends on the needs. but usually, yeah, we want to separate the concerns as much as possible. So when you do the CSS as a separate file, well, what will happen is that you will simplify your HTML file. That's a very good thing. You don't want to have very sophisticated, complex, hard to read files, so you will remove all these styling codes from an HTML file. That's a very good thing. And also, once you prepare this document, it's a reusable one, which means that you can use it for all other HTML files. Think that you are trying to build a website in which you have multiple web pages, and probably you would like to have a consistent style across your web pages. So then what you might do is, for that template of your website, you can create a CSS file, so that, and then for each file you can just give a link to that document, so that all of them will have the same style. And also, well, you might always say, okay, you might always need to change a style of your web page, then you don't need to go to in all web pages and change it. By just changing in that single CSS file, it will be applied to all HTML documents. So it's highly recommended to make your web pages more reusable. It's easier to maintain them. And well, in CSS, now I'll go back to my couple of slides back. We had said that it is cascading style sheet. So now let's look into this cascaded part. So what it means is, well, always the last rule will be applied, which means that, well, in an HTML file, you can give a reference to multiple CSS files, and each of them there can be different rules, but these rules sometimes might be applicable to the same tag. But then the question is, okay, how will we solve this conflict? Because let's say that Qatar University has its own style, then College of Engineering has its own style, and Computer Science and Engineering department has also its own style. Which one will be applied? Well, the last one, the last rule that you said will be applied. So this is the case. So, and similarly, what might happen is when we have these inline and embedded and external CSS files, they can have also conflict. Like in one CSS file, we might say that, okay, paragraphs should be in this format. And then in an index file, I will say that maybe the paragraphs will be in a different format. And for a particular tag, we might say, okay, this paragraph should be in this format. So again, what will happen is that the inline style will win in this case, because this one, well, maybe for your all paragraphs, for your all web pages, you want a specific style for your paragraphs, but maybe there's a single page that you want it to be different than the others. So that's why in that one you want to override that rule only for that web page. And also maybe in some parts of your document you might say, okay, I would like to make this paragraph different than the others. Maybe you want them to make it bold so that everyone will read it, so it's a different paragraph, so that you want to override that rule and then you want to change it. So then you might need this kind of an in style rule. And the other thing is the inheritance among the CSS rules. What is this part? Well, it is similar to what we see in Java. Like in Java, what we have is we have an inheritance between classes, and a child class inherits the attributes and the methods of its parent class, and it can also override it. Now we have a very similar concept here. The only thing is that now we don't have this extension, but we might have a one rule might be more, we can have a tag between in another tag. So this is where we build this inheritance relationship. What do I mean by this? Now let's give it an example. Here we have a rule for body. Okay, so we say that, okay, the font family will be Arial, the size will be %, and the color will be gray. Okay, so the body is a very large tag actually. In a body tag, I might have multiple different tags. And well, you might want to say that, okay, h1 tags should be 900. The color will be a different one than the gray. So what happens is when we have this in this at this web page, we have this body tag, as you can see, which means that all these tags h1, p, and h2, this is all of them. Main heading, this is a body copy, this is subheading, and more body copy. All of them will have this style, which is Arial, the font sizes that way, and the color is gray. Okay, but then what you would like to do is, okay, for h1 you would like to change its color. It's 900, so this is RGB values. R is 9, the others are 0, so it will be a red color. So again, this h1 will override its rule for gray. It won't be gray anymore, it will be red, but it is still Arial. It is still Arial, so it inherits those properties that we apply to its parent element in this scenario, which is body. There's in the previous slides we have all seen very briefly how to select the part of the HTML to be affected our styling operations, but actually CSS provides a very detailed and very sophisticated ways to select components of web pages. So first, well, we can say that we have from one aspect we can say that we have three different types of selectors. The first one is an element selectors, which is the thing that we have seen in the previous slides. So which means that like we define a style for each element. Like when we say that P, it means that it will apply to all P tags. So for a given tag type, we can define a style version, and then this will apply all of those tags in that web page. So we cannot say that on some of those, but all of them will be affected by this kind of element sectors. So if we now go to our platform, I would like to show these things. First, let's remove these parts. And maybe we can just change it in this way. So we have, let's say we have this P here and div here and so on. And then let's run this code now. So here is our the file. We are saying that okay, all P's should have the background yellow and all divs should have the font weight bold. So here we have this class, a P version. We will see this. Let me also delete this part. We have this paragraph here and we have this div here, and let me put one more paragraph actually, just to show that this is this applies to all those things. So this paragraph is highlighted, this paragraph is also highlighted, this div is also written in bold. Let's say it in this way so that it will match our what we have written. Based on it will now match with our style. So now as you can see that it applies to both. This rule applies to both, and this rule applies only to div ones. So now let's go to other version, which is a class selector. In a class selector, what we do is, well, we define a style actually and give it a name. Like as in this example, I'd like to say, okay, red border. So in a red border, I mean that this border attribute should be 1 pixel, it should be solid and red. So, and then what I'm doing is I define how to draw a red border actually. And then for my tags, then I said, okay, this tag, well, I would like to make it a red border for it. So that one, I use this class attribute and I said, okay, class is equal to red border. What is red border? Red border is the style that I defined here. So in this version, basically, we define styles, we give them a names, and then we use those names to identify to style the tags. So let's do this also here. So what I'll do is, now we have this p div, and we can say, okay, I would like to have this red color. And before going that, our syntax is that we need to put here a dot to give a name. So I will say, okay, we will have this red color. Okay, so in that one we will have maybe color, and then it will be red. Okay, then what will happen is, now I defined a rule here, and well, then what I will do is I will go to here, class, and I will say, okay, this class, its class will be, again I'm going back to this part, in codes we need to use the class name. So which is, here we say that class is equal to red, and then I will run my code again. As you can see, now this became red, and the good thing here is, well, now I can apply this rule to many. I can say, okay, this div should be also red. So now we define style, and now we use it wherever we need, where we think it is needed. And well, you might also say, okay, we can define, of course, multiples, like let's define also this border. Yeah, red border, in which we will say, I'll just do this part, which is the border, colon, and so border, and then 1 pixel, it should be solid and should be red. That's it. Yeah. So when we now run the code here again, of course, now we define it. So what it means is, well, I can apply it to different cases. So for this one, I would like to say, okay, this should be a red border. So now I can apply different classes to different tags, as you can see. This is how it looks like. And also, I can apply multiple classes for a single tag. Like for div class, I would like to say, okay, it should be red and it should have a red border. So I can define multiple tags for that one. Now I'm going to our other version, which is this ID selectors. And an ID selector, now we want to apply a very specific style. Like I would like to say, okay, for this very specific tag which has that ID, okay, then apply that style with it. So for instance, now I need to go, so for that one we define it with a hashtag, and then we here write an ID that we use in one of the tags, and then we define our style. So let me go back to here again. So what we mean here is, we need to define here, let's say, an ID for it, which is, let's say, the first paragraph. Okay, and then I would like to apply this for the tag, this one, paragraph, of course. I wrote it in Turkish. Sorry. Then I would like to say, okay, this one, well, we can say what we would like to do is the first one paragraph would like to make, let's say, make it bold. Okay, or maybe you would like to change its background color to green, whatever you think that it is needed. Okay, so I can just say, let's make it green. Okay, and then now again, we can run it, and then you'll see this is what we'll get. Oh, it doesn't look nice, to be honest. But the thing is, okay, what is here is, of course, when we say ID, each of them will have a different ID. So if this is the second paragraph, for instance, so it should not be affected by this. You might ask the same question, like, what if I did this way? Like, this is also the first paragraph. It will be also affected. But I need to say this. IDs, when we say ID, it should be unique. So this is not actually recommended to use the same multiple IDs, use same ID for the multiple tags. So so it is doable, but it's not recommended for in terms of development purposes. So when we want to compare these three cases, elements, selector, there is no symbol. For the class one we put a dot, for the ID we put a hash. And element selector is not low, its specificity is low, which means like we apply to all paragraphs. In the class selector is medium because we can apply to multiple items, but not all of them we selected. ID selector is very specific because we just said, okay, I would like to apply to this particular tag. So this is one unique element, multiple elements, and all elements of a type.